All right, so let's talk about this very quickly, if we could, please, Bradie. AEW, and we've been on the case of AEW for some time now, both good and bad. We pointed out either way, the way that it is. And it seems like this past week, they decided that being in Winnipeg, they needed to pull out all the stops and have Winnipeg's most eligible wrestler in Kenny Omega show up. Now, last time we saw Kenny, he was taking some time off because of the diverticulitis. And Kenny came out there kind of in a response to what we saw with the lead up with the Young Bucks beating up Tony Khan. If you go back and you watch some of our other stuff, who is going to be Team Tony on our YouTube channel, you can see that we talked about this to the point where Tony Khan maybe needs to put together a quote, quote, army, his side of the faction to battle against the evil that is the EVPs and Jumpin' Jack and Okada and whoever else they decide to bring in. And of course, being in Winnipeg, you have to have something from Kenny Omega. But Kenny's sick, or is Kenny sick? Because we saw Kenny come out and cut a promo that turned into a spot. Now, anytime I see any kind of promo, that's one thing. But anytime you take that promo and you turn it into a spot, an altercation at that, especially when it's something that during this promo, when he said, any kind of blunt force trauma to this area could set it off like a ticking time bomb. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but it was something to that effect. Obviously, putting it over to be more dangerous than it actually is. Because then shortly after that, what's happened? He gets beat up and he gets jumped. And then they put him on a stretcher, and then he has to take one of the most horrible, disgusting, you can't protect yourself, you just got to eat it like a big old bag of you-know-what bumps. Anytime that you're strapped down to a gurney and your arms are at your side and you get pushed over and you can't protect yourself, dude, those are the worst bumps ever. But the fact that he took that, the fact that he sold the guts, the fact that he did all of these things after that promo tells me one thing. Kenny's going to be good to go for All In.
Well, yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think maybe he's already had the surgery.
I think that it's going to be one of these things where you're going to see him. Now, what side he still ends up on, I don't know, because this is Kenny Omega and the Bucks, and they could just be having some fun, and maybe we see the Golden Elite reunite. Who knows?
The Golden Lovers or the Golden Elite? Well, I guess, yeah, it's all the same shit.
Yeah, exactly. Because you talk about the Golden Lovers, and we still haven't seen Ibushi come back yet. We haven't seen MJF come back yet. We haven't seen who else could you? We haven't seen what's Don Callis going to be saying, because there's that tie with him and Kenny Omega. Well, if there's that tie with him and Kenny Omega, then there's that tie with Don Callis and Will Ospreay. So what's happening there? Because you could see Will Ospreay get dragged into this mix as well.
Well, now they just pulled in Orange Cassidy. Don Callis is trying to steer Orange Cassidy over to his group. So you might see something with that, because Orange Cassidy technically is one of the names that we didn't even mention when we were talking about Team Tony. Well, if anybody's going to be on a Team Tony or should be eligible, a day one guy like Orange Cassidy would technically fit that description perfectly. But let's rewind a little bit. So
sure.
Kenny comes out. He cuts his promo. They save it for the end of the show. It ends up leading into Rampage. But he comes out and cuts his promo. And one of the things that he says is he's not very good at doing these things. Well, I disagree. I think that's one of the best Kenny Omega promos I've ever heard.
It's not saying much.
It is, though.
Okay. And
I don't shit on Kenny as much as some other people do. I don't think he's the worst thing in the world. I don't think his promos are garbage.
Here's the difference between a Kenny Omega promo and a pro wrestling promo, though.
Okay.
Kenny Omega does his promos the same way that he talks. He's a very soft-spoken kind of guy. You're not going to get that inflamed, pro wrestling promo. Tonight, Mean Gene, we're going to take it to the garden and blah, blah. You're not going to get that.
Jesus. No, you're going to get the, I am Kenny, and I just want to go out there and fight and maybe put you in a headlock and maybe I'll pin you. 1, 2, 3.
The most Canadian dude not from Quebec as a professional wrestler is Kenny Omega. It is absolutely true.
He speaks exactly like Mike Bailey. And you know what? Sweethearts.
Yeah. Lovely human beings. Salt of the earth human beings, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what we need right now, Kenny.
What do we need, sir?
What we need some fire. We need you to fire up a little bit. We need you to get angry. These guys now have come out and they've pushed you over. They tried to send you to a hospital immediately. You were just there fulfilling a contractual obligation and being a nice guy to the company in your hometown. And these assholes come and do this.
Fucking pricks.
So you got to come out there and you got to have some fire. And then they got to come out and they got to be like, screw your fire. It beat you up again until your boy comes back. And then your boy Ibushi comes back. And now you've got somebody else who could fight against this tag team, the Young Bucks. Now you've got somebody else that isn't FTR, but you've got the ability to do something very special because all of this is leading up. All of this is leading up to a return of MJF. That's really what it's all about right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because that's the money spot for AEW. So much so that everybody is now talking about all of this and not talking about Swerve Strickland going to go and do a match with Christian Cage.
Yeah, nobody cares anymore. But Donnie, our truth bomber of the week, he mentions that, and we'll play that after we edit this segment, before we get to our bonus segment of the week. But yeah, Donnie does talk about that. Christian Cage, is that the right choice for a guy like Swerve? What the hell's kind of going on with Swerve right now? Should he be the focal point of the story being told, or are we in a situation now where you have two main stories going on? Hopefully they don't mix.
I don't want them to mix, and
No.
I don't think that they should. I think that you have an opportunity right now to keep Swerve completely separate. I think the only thing that would throw a wrench in that is if some kind of unforeseen circumstance keeps MJF out past All In. Because the second best choice to replace him would be your heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
To come in and be that good guy. Because the heat isn't, remember, here's the thing, the heat is not on Tony Khan now. We haven't heard from Tony Khan. Tony Khan, he took his lumps. He put on a neck brace. He went and drafted some people for the NFL.
Well, he tried to open up the show, but the Young Bucks took over the opening of the show, etc. He couldn't leave Jacksonville. Racking fracking. I'm not too big on this storyline. I don't know where we go from here. I am worried about AEW with things like DAZN just threw them off of their pay-per-view. They don't have any streaming now in Europe. I think some things are happening behind the scenes that are uncontrollable, and it sucks because I really, as much like if you've been listening to this thing since day one, we do not want this company to fail. We're not critiquing it because we want people to jump on a bandwagon of hating the thing. We're not jumping on a bandwagon of hating the thing either. We're just trying to point out stuff that seems so obvious that could be fixed or adjusted. We want it to succeed.
I don't think that we're in a position where everybody is thinking that these guys are going to end up like WCW. I don't think that we're in a position where everybody thinks that this is going to be bought and all of a sudden you're going to see, Triple H over on AEW TV talking about how he bought the company or whatever. I personally think that guys like Triple H and the people that are in charge in WWE right now, they want AEW to stay around. They need AEW to stay around because they can't employ everybody. They just can't, which
No.
means that they need to have places for people to work, especially high profile places for high profile workers, so that they can stay at that level. And so that when they do decide to come back or they do decide to get asked back, they're good to go. Because you know as well as I do, if they were to buy the company and dissolve it, well, what happens? All of these people go onto the shelves or they go back to work in the indies full time.
Well, to quote your buddy Conrad Thompson, nobody hates wrestling more than wrestling fans themselves. This is what
100%.
this is. It's so crazy. Like, well, I don't know why anybody would want AEW to fail, or TNA to fail, or MLW to fail, or NWA to fail, or New Japan Pro Wrestling, or WWE for that matter. Why would you want these companies to fail if this is the thing that you love so much? We all want to critique it. We all can be armchair quarterbacks, armchair bookers, armchair managers, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, we're just fans that enjoy this shit.
Anytime that you're asking or wishing or manifesting one of these companies to fail, it's not the company that you're hurting. It's the employees. And the employees happen to be the wrestlers that you really like. Oh, I really like watching so-and-so, but man, I hate the company he works for. Maybe he doesn't like the fucking company either.
He's getting a paycheck doing what he loves to do.
And he's keeping his shit smooth. So in case he gets a call from somebody else.
Nobody loves shit smoother than we do, sir.
Listen, WWE likes to have their shit as smooth as possible. Otherwise, you're just going to have to go back into the system like Jade Cargill.